The most visible and colorful of our three pieces of equipment is the flag. It can create dynamic effects and thrill audiences with massive and exciting impacts, and it continues to be a favorite power moment for the guards in all classes. Fast-paced phrases and high tosses are the hallmark of those memorable moments. WGI is pleased to bring you detailed instruction from three of our top equipment experts who will guide you in the techniques that will bring you to that skill level where you too can take center stage and wow the fans.
The vertical toss. One of the first tosses actually done, and it's still the one that makes the crowd stand up at the end. But when you're doing a vertical toss, there's lots of technique involved to make that moment happen. One of the things you have to realize is that there's two hands that don't work against each other, that they do work together. One pushes, one pulls. When I talk about the vertical toss, the first thing you have to understand is which hand does what. So when we have a standard pop toss, which most people call it, it acts like a pulley. The first thing you want to do is understand how the hands work together. One pulls down, one pushes up. The left hand is what gives it the spin. The right hand is what gives it height. But both hands work simultaneously together. They push through the and count, and then they go up into the release. Okay? Now, if he did it without the flag, and he just pushed down, your left hand opens up to the right. For a 4-count toss, normally you do a full extension. 3-count toss, you go into the L. But both tosses do open at the flat level, and you just follow through. A common problem, or something definitely to look out for, would be the release point. Even though we talked about the L shape, where your hand opens in the full extension, you can do that L shape too far over. You can do it too far to the left, too far to the right. What causes that is understanding how your hand works. In a basic hand, you have your rifle zone. This is where you do all your rifle work. Your saber, and then you have your flag. What happens when you hold on to it too long is when it'll shoot the opposite way. So you have to take your hand and open it quicker. So when your students are standing there and they're throwing too far to the left or too far to the right, rainbow hooking, I don't know, whatever you call it, that's what it's from. It's from not knowing, A, what part of your hand to use, and more importantly, B, not opening up your hand quick enough. He took his hand, if you notice his free hand, it went way too far to the right. Try it again. He goes out, he takes his arm, his fingertips went out because he held on to it too long, and he went to the side. If you watch his free hand and watch his fingers, it's to the side. Where if he does it correctly, you'll notice his hand opens up right in that shape that we talked about. And you'll notice that when he does do that, try it again, watch his left hand, the follow-through process, okay? When you have the younger guys, they have seams. Even in their rehearsal sweats, shorts, they all have seams. Teach them that when they do push down, to line up their finger with their seam. And a lot of times what I do to try to break the high mom habit, where both their hands are up in the air, is to grab their pants. Okay? What happened there was his right hand hit before the left. Okay? So what that means is that he put too much height on it. So he had to grab it before he can get his other hand in it. It's funny, we spend so much time in a basic block, and we do our spins, and we do our tosses, and they're all right. And then all of a sudden, the equipment writer comes along and teaches them a phrase, and all of a sudden, they have to toss out of their left. So all the students are looking at you like you're crazy because they don't understand. What you should definitely incorporate in any type of toss situation is how to toss using both hands in opposition. So the one we did before was a regular pop toss out of the right. Okay, now it's a pop toss out of the left. Does the technique change because the hands switch? No, it doesn't. It's the same thing, just reversed. So if I stood behind him and I did a regular toss and I turned, do slow motion, go, our hands would still be the same. Okay, hands still have the same responsibility as they did the other way. So with the left hand toss, right hand pushes down, left hand opens, same technique applies, where it opens, how fast you want it to spin, and the follow through. All the free hands we're doing today are follow through. There's tons of things you can do with your free hands, but be careful, because once we do a toss, okay, we start from here and we toss, because there's a cute body pose or something underneath it, it screws up our release. because the student is more worried about what they look like underneath than finishing that thought process and going to another. When that happens, your hand opens, and that whole technique thing that we talked about where it goes to the sides definitely comes into play. So here, left-handed pop toss, same technique as your right. Okay? Now, what is he doing wrong? I can tell you right now. Watch his free hands and watch the follow through, because this side of his body feels more uncomfortable. All the way down, and he goes up. Much better.
We're going to demonstrate now a toss that has a little bit more rotation, more height, and now the release of the toss comes from the center of the flagpole here. She's going to demonstrate the rotation that goes a little bit higher. These tosses could be great for dynamic effects, large effects here. And then she'll do one of these tosses, catching it at an angle. Here we're going to talk about how she gets into this toss. We'll stop at the first grab. And then she just repositions the flag, and she'll grab in the middle of the circle. Do that one more time. And pops up. And there she's feeling the weight of the pole as it lifts up, and she's going to tendu just to kind of incorporate a little lower body with this. And then from here, she'll go to carve, where she'll establish that carving motion, where she pushes out in the 45 and comes back to a good angle. Great. And then from here, we'll go to the release point, turning the wrist, and then bring the pole to a 45. So this toss here, now the weight is coming from the middle of the pole, and she's using left hand to release as well. So you want to try that one more time, just the release point. And notice her left hand that pushes the pole, and she lets go with the right hand right about above her eyebrow. And we'll take a few tosses. And push. Good. We'll take one more. And lift, circle, out. We're going to demonstrate the same toss, and now we're going to show how you can grab the toss with a different grip that gives it a different look. Here it's the same rotation, it's a little bit more height, but she's catching it almost at a flat and then lifting it up by grabbing the toss with the hand over rather than catching it with two hands. So we're going to take one toss, we'll stop at the catch. And then notice there how her hand is grabbing over with a lift in the body. We'll take one more. It's the same prep, same idea with the release, a little bit higher, and then lift up with the body. We're going to do the same toss, and then now she's going to demonstrate that right arm that swings underneath it just to provide a little body underneath the toss. Swing to catch. We'll take one more. The arm will swing underneath it, and then she'll catch it over. So here the toss is giving a little bit more height, and then there's some more dynamics of body underneath this toss versus the first one that we demonstrated. We'll take one more. Good.
Whenever you're doing any type of toss, one thing to talk about is your airspace, especially on a parallel. What happens a lot of times, parallels become 45 tosses because the student doesn't understand the space around them and above their head. When you're doing a flat toss, it's the same technique as all your other tosses. The hands have to work together. So when he comes and he's doing a flat, he has to take this and he's going to come through. Okay? Then his airspace, he has to know to go up, and then it'll rotate around. Okay? Notice, let's try that again. Notice how his left hand pulls back. Left hand on a pop toss did what? You're right, push down. So you go up, this goes behind you. Okay? What they're going to do most of the time on a parallel toss, go up, exactly what he's doing, extend this arm, so they're going to get hit in the head. You want to leave that bent. You want to go up and bend the arm. Okay? And when he does that, this will go follow through. So when you're first learning it, the first thing you want to teach the student is how to get it up and over, because if not, they're going to go and they're going to hit themselves right in the head. You want to take it and you want to go and up. Go. Is that right? No, it is not. If you look at his right hand, what he's doing here is he's taking it and he's dipping it down. He has to take his right hand and go up. Both hands go up. One pushes forward, one pushes down. Goes up. I had him turn around Because you'll watch when you're cleaning them, it's much easier for you, the instructor, to know what their area is if you watch them on the side. Okay? So when you watch his parallel from the side, you can tell that his arm, his right arm, the whole thing we talked about is that it's going too far forward. Okay, and straight. He needs to bend his arm and worry more about pulling his left hand back. When you're doing a flag toss, whether it's a half toss, a flip, a double, a triple turnaround with your flagpole, the technique is always the same. Okay, you have to understand how your hands work together to start it. Then from there, the rotation is just pushing more, opening quicker. That's all that does. But make sure, no matter how high the toss is, that the technique doesn't change. A lot of times I see when we have to do a high flag toss that they use all their right hand and their left hand just hangs out there. No, use push it. Push and pull. That's all you got to do. Push and pull. Push and pull. Parallel. Push and pull. Everything's always the same.
We're going to demonstrate a 45 toss. Here we're facing the front as if this is our front. I wanted to show you how her hands are in the middle of the pole. Both thumbs are going down the pole. And then here, when she releases, we'll stop at the release point, she's carving and then bringing the tip on the 45, establishing that plane. We'll try that one more time. At this position here, you'll notice that she's starting on a 45, and the tip is carving out. Good. And that establishes that diagonal type release. We'll try one more. And out. Now, this type of release is very similar. We show the pop toss position facing the... This is very similar where we're grabbing and pushing. One hand is pushing, one hand is releasing. Okay, it's the same idea. Now when we face this way and change the plane, again, it's really very similar. We'll go to the release point, and then this hand will control the height, and this will give it a little bit of spin. And then we'll throw 145 toss facing the same way. And you'll notice here, she releases it. She's pushing, and both arms are swinging down, helping her give that rotation. We'll take one more. Notice how her arms help the release. Great. And then when she catches here, she's putting the left hand into the silk, right hand by the tab, establishing that same plane. Now let's demonstrate how to get into the toss with the wrong plane. If you start at the 45, often we need to be careful that we'll take the tip and we'll scoop it under, perhaps a little bit, which distorts the 45. So when we release the pole, we're starting with the tip of the pole, carving it out. And that establishes through flat, mid-waist flat, then into the release point, 45. That establishes that 45-degree angle, that clean release that we're looking for. We'll take one toss. Good. A little bit more push of the left hand will give it a quicker rotation. Yeah. Great. Okay, notice how she's releasing it to the back now. Same release, you see more of the silk. So when we're making those choices to throw 45 tosses, but depending on our vantage point where our audience is sitting, we want to take in consideration where the silk is opening up to. So now at the same toss facing back, you see more of the silk. And then now she's going to release them to the back 45, back corner. It gives a different look. As she pushes through flat and the 45 and then out. We're going to demonstrate another 45 toss. Here, the prep into it is a little bit different. The carving pathway is different. And then where she's letting go from is different. So the weight now changes depending on where her hand is before she releases. So into this toss, we'll stop at the cradle. And she's lifting up, grabbing into the silk here with the left hand, establishing, again, that 45-degree plane. Then from here, she's going to carve it around the body and then stop at the grab. And this establishes the 45. At this point here, she makes that carving path around her body. She'll stop here at the 45, and she's grabbing in the middle of the silk. So now the weight of this 45 toss is a little bit different because it's coming from the right hand in the middle of the silk. And then from here, she'll release it out, separately, release point. Great. And it's that same path that we talked about earlier where it's carving out and then releasing to the 45 on the 45-degree plane facing back. Take one more release. Out. Now from this point, it'll be the same release, and then when you go to the catch position, The catch on this toss is going to be on this 45, where it was rotating, and she's grabbing it palm over, where the other tosses she was grabbing them with the thumbs up. And now she's going to grab it palm over on this catch. We'll go ahead and take one toss. Lifting up, carving around, and out. Earlier when we did the first 45 toss, it's the same rotation, except the push is happening from both hands. Whereas now we'll do the second toss. It's primarily coming from the right hand and swinging. And that gives it that height and the rotation. So it's a very similar release, except now we're changing the grip into it. The weight of it now changes because we're grabbing from the center of the pole, and it's giving some more height and volume to this release. We'll take a few more. She's cradling it around through plie, and the grip again is over. Again, just giving it a different look. Then will you flow out of that? Sure. In this particular release here, we can grab it on the catch and then flow right out of it and maybe go into another move.
Now we're going to talk about body underneath the equipment toss, okay? So the first basic thing I think that you can do to add body underneath equipment is basically start from a position that will change when you're in the air. So that's the basic thing you do. So you'll do the same toss as we did, just like this, but then my body will move. That's basic, right? Now if I want to be a little less basic, I can go from something like this to something like that. So it's the same idea. I do the same exact toss, the same release, except I toss from here, then I change my catch position. That's one way. Now the possibilities are endless. I could release from here, catch here. So, and again, I'll do the same toss, but my body change. I can use passes, I can use all kind of spirals you want, but I'm always going to keep this part front. Now, if I want to add just a little more difficulties to my toss, I'll do what I mean. To me, it's always a suspension that happens underneath the toss. So it's like in dance, where I suspend. So I'll do the same thing, but this time with my toss. Suspend, catch. The techniques stay the same, but you can feel the body suspending underneath the toss. And again, you can use different variety. You can even do this with an horizontal, where you go suspend, catch. So it's again a move, but this time we hide it up with the body and a down. Okay? I use a lot the plie on the catch. Okay? That helps to have a clearer line and to absorb the pole coming in. Now, following the idea of the suspension, right, with the toss, I can take it further, and this time I can travel, just like we say. So let's say if I take the same basic toss we've been doing, this time I'm going to travel, but I'll do like piqué and down. So I did the same thing as the suspension, but I just took it a little further by adding a step in there. So again, I go piqué and down. Now, if I want to take it even further, the piqué can become a jump, up and down. So that's becoming at a higher level. Again, all the possibilities, the more original you can be, the better it is. Any dance move you can do underneath any regular tosses. Okay? Just be as creative as you want. Another way of creating body underneath a toss is, this time I'll use the horizontal, is to create level changes. So I can release here, catch here. So that will be body, but this time I do a level change. So if I do it, here, catch. And I can also do the same thing, but up, where I'll go release and up. So the same thing, you have the level change. The only thing that changed technically will be my release. Actually, when I catch up, it's going to be my release point. I'll have to release a little higher. So let's say I do only one rotation like this. If I want to catch it up, I'll just do like if I'm about to do a single and a half, but I will stop the rotation in the air. When I catch down, what I always tell the kids is to think about doing less rotation almost, so the rotation completes below where it should happen usually. Because if I do a normal rotation, I'll do this, right? So I want to under-rotate and catch low. So you can also take those combinations into 45 tosses, okay? So this is my toss, right? So now let's say I want to do a suspension. I can go suspend, catch. Can also do the level change, where I'll go suspend, catch. When you want to add the body to the equipment work, I think the easiest thing to do is to basically not think about it and just go where naturally it would go. So let's say I write a phrase that's something like this, and this would be my toss. I'll just go naturally where it takes me. Say I added piqué, step, step. I didn't even think about it. I just went with the flow. What is my flag doing? If it comes naturally for you, it probably will for the kids too. It'll be easier to clean, and they'll be much more comfortable. I can do the same thing with a parallel. Let's say I go up and down. So naturally, as I follow the motion of the flag, this happens with my body. So same thing will happen here. So when you put the body and the toss together in a realistic setting, you will be in a phrase and in a phrase coming out too. So you're not going to always go stop, release, catch, and then do work again, right? So you want to make sure that you keep the flow going of your work into your toss and catch. So this is one example where I do my work, I come into the toss, and tuck, tuck, tuck. So you don't have to stop, release, and then go again every time. You can create that if you want, and sometimes musically you have accent that you want to hit. But most of the time, I think the toss will come naturally out of a phrase. If I use the parallel space, I'm here, it comes up, down, and then whoops, can do a little single here. So I'll be using all the combination, but it all comes from work within.
We're going to demonstrate a toss now that changes the weight in a couple different ways, where the grip is on the pole, and then now the silk is going to be stripped, which now just involves the pole moving, and then the silk is going to open up on the release. Here, Lindsay's going to stop at the strip, and we establish that clean line with the 45, and then she's going to go into it and show you how she grabs that release as it slides and through the arm. All right, we'll do that one more time. So she's going to strip the flag, and then it pulls through the arm, and then there's the release. You'll notice on this particular toss, she's holding on to the silk because everything is going to explode out on this type of release with her palm facing up. So we'll do that one more time. She's going to strip the flag, pull through the arm, and swing it up. Again, this type of release really relies on that pendulum effect where you feel that down out. And we'll take this toss, we'll stop at the catch. Great, one more time. So this is more of a high, lofty effect toss, swings, and she's catching on that 45.
As your skills develop and your confidence grows, let your imagination guide you to explore all the options you can create. Technique and the development of muscle memory will assure you of achieving the beauty and excitement of this colorful piece of equipment.